Metaphysical Energy Healing, Chapter 1, Section 8. The Energy Medicine Experiment, Aftermath. Quote, "Everyone is born with psychic abilities. It is just a matter of knowing how to tap into it." Julien Offray de la Mettrie, French philosopher. My wife picked me up in our car early the following Sunday morning for the drive back to Tucson and the testing for Dr. Schwartz's experiment. Although it had faded a little bit, I remained in a state that at that time I assumed was related to the elation that I felt on finding a new path towards healing. Now I realized that it was much more than that. A new sensory had opened in me and the world seemed brand new. Things were sharper, more alive, and more vivid. Everything around me seemed not only more alive, but actually conscious. I can understand why Native American people feel that everything is conscious and has a soul. It was a rebirth. The world was new, mysterious, and exciting again. The position of my soul as a perceiver had been changed, though I scarcely knew what this meant. Although it is very unlikely that you will understand what I am trying to communicate to you at this moment, please keep this in mind for future reference. Right now, your soul is perceiving on the level that I did that day, and in fact, you have no choice. I had just learned the very beginnings of how to tap into this power. As the years passed, I would become more and more familiar with the state that allowed psychic abilities. The only thing that is blinding you to this reality is your ordinary mind and the filter of the five senses. I did my best to try to relate my experience to my wife, but there was no way that I would be able to communicate this awesome feeling to her. It was surrounding me, and I bathed in it. When it comes to opening your full human potential, you will find it very difficult to explain it to another. The only way to experience it is by experiencing it. There is no question that I had changed in a major way. I refer to the period that followed as, quote, my spiritual cage being rattled. The way in which I was viewing the world was rapidly changing, and I could no longer cling to the explanations and rationalizations of those in the scientific community. Somehow I knew that they would not be available to me to help me understand. I would be joining another community, one with a great deal more to offer. I would remain in the community of scientists and physicians, but now that world seemed dry and lifeless. It had never provided me with the satisfaction I had felt that day. I thought that I had understood the intricacies of the human organism with their training, but now it was clear that I did not. It was clear that human beings are much more than what we think they are in this community. Something else was also happening, and initially I could not put my finger on it. Looking back on it, the opening that I had received during that weekend had turned me into an involuntary psychic. No one had warned me that this might happen. Quite to my surprise and delight, I was beginning to get information from a source that could not be confirmed with my five senses. I still cannot identify the source of this information, but it was accurate to an amazing degree. On the way back to Tucson, I had several episodes where events that would happen in the future were presented to me in great detail. On one occasion, I was presented with something that was similar to a movie where I had a visual representation of an event that would happen in the future. For some reason, I was given the information that one of the members of the fellowship that I was about to graduate from would not be able to attend a meeting that was scheduled in the future. The information came seemingly out of nowhere. I have no idea why I was told this information, and feel very certain that I was told by something or someone who could see into the future. This happened on a number of occasions during the next year. I am not unlike others who believe that personalities with enhanced mental function exist on a plane where they are invisible to us, and yet they still can't communicate. Did they have experiences that were not limited by time and space? Was I speaking with an angel? Of course, I will never know. Was I somehow traveling into the future myself, viewing the event in detail, and then somehow returning to the present with the information? All my life I had had intuitive flashes, where information from the future was presented to me that eventually was confirmed in real time, when the event actually developed. Now the information presented to me during an intuitive flash was much more vivid and incredibly accurate. One thing was abundantly clear. Whatever had happened that weekend had made it much easier for me to do this. Later, when I began to work with patients and alter their states of consciousness, they experienced the same increase in their psychic abilities, depending on their ability to enter and remain in altered states of consciousness. Rosalind had equated the human energy field or aura with what people call the third eye, or sixth sense. I would later come to understand that, quote, running energy expands the human energy field and allows this ability. Expansion of the human energy field opens the third eye. You can do this simply by running energy. I was beginning to lose a concept that I now regard as an illusion. All my life I have thought of time as linear and information from the future as unavailable. I was able to perceive events in the future happening at a great distance with my mind with almost no effort at all. In fact, I did not ask for this information at all and did not seek it in any way. As I compose this audiobook, I would like you to have in your pocket the understanding that I eventually reached. In certain states of consciousness, your soul can receive and perceive information from a more global source of information. When you enter as a perceiver into certain states of consciousness, information not limited by time or space becomes available. You begin to understand that the ordinary mind and 5 senses exist for one purpose only, and that is survival on the physical plane. The 5 senses and ordinary mind appear as filters, blocking out a larger and seemingly infinite source of information. If the position of the perceiver is limited by this filter, only the information that gets past this filter can reach you. Once you achieve states of consciousness that no longer rely upon this filter, vast amounts of information are available. The ordinary mind is quickly overwhelmed by this vast amount of information, and this information is no longer limited by time or space. This audiobook is designed to teach you new methods of healing and maintenance of health for sure. If you enter states of consciousness available through these methods, you may very well experience what psychics experience. The information available to you will no longer be limited by time or space. In Tucson, we completed the testing, and I was certain that I was able to not only emit energy more efficiently, but also was able to detect the emission of energy in my partner's hands with much more sensitivity. It was but the beginning. I am now able to detect people's energies at great distances. I wonder what Dr. Schwartz would think if he tested me now, because now I can detect subtle energy not only at a distance of several feet, but several thousand miles. It is clear that it takes a great deal of practice to do this. What Dr. Schwartz was able to prove was that you could take medical professionals and teach them how to manipulate and detect subtle energy. 2 days later in my clinic, as previously described, I was able to use this subtle energy to treat a very real and very threatening human medical problem. As I developed my ability to use these energies, doing so with literally thousands of patients, I was able to confirm what ancient man has known for thousands of years. You are more than what you think you are.